Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting, where you're diving straight into today's buzz, bringing you a rapid-fire roundup of the most trending posts from X. Consider this your essential shortcut to staying well-informed on what's truly shaping the conversation right now.
And we mean rapid fire. We've sifted through a stack of sources to get you the most important nuggets of knowledge, helps you understand what's truly significant in today's information flow. Today we're looking at, well, quite a range. Surprising economic shifts, crypto integration accelerating, communication breakdowns, even global power plays. Let's get right into it.
Okay, kicking things off with a post that really grabbed attention. This is from @Saylor. This is absolutely insane. U.S. tariff revenue surged plus 300% in July 2025, bringing in a record $29.6 billion in 1 month. At this pace, tariff revenue could exceed $350 billion per year through President Trump's term. What does it all mean? Let us explain. A thread. https://2.tcove2m5n9yvm. That word insane, it really captures it. A 300% surge is just, well, massive. What's driving this? And what does it really mean beyond that headline number?
Yeah, insane feels about right. It's an undeniable record for a single month. The context is crucial. This $29.6 billion surge in July 2025 is mostly driven by new tariffs, the ones announced just in early August, targeting goods from India, Brazil, and Japan. To give you some perspective, during Trump's first trade war, no single month topped $10 billion. So this is a big escalation.
Wow, okay. That's quite a difference. But what about the bigger picture financially? Is this a game changer for the federal budget, or are there, hidden costs we should be aware of?
Well, it's not quite a free lunch.
Yeah.
More revenue sounds good, sure. If this $350 billion annual pace holds up, that revenue could cover maybe 10% of the July federal deficit. But, and this is important, a recent Treasury report highlights that overall federal spending still way, way higher than receipts. So tariffs alone, even at this level, aren't solving the deficit challenge, not without big spending cuts. And what's really fascinating, some economic models, like from the Peterson Institute, they actually suggest these kinds of big tariff hikes could reduce U.S. GDP, maybe by 0.2% to 0.8%, because of trade disruptions. So you see the tension. Boost revenue, maybe, but potentially hurt overall growth. Plus, there's always the risk of retaliation.
So, yeah, a surprisingly complex picture. It's not just easy money for the government. There are some thorny economic ripples. Okay, from macroeconomics, let's pivot. A different kind of disruption, crypto. This post from @EricTrump is literally just, suck, and a link. https://.co8m1s70pmo. Those rockets usually mean something big is happening, right? What's the significance here for crypto finance?
Absolutely. Those rockets. They're celebrating a major milestone, ALT5 Sigma Corporation's listing on the Nasdaq. This is a fintech company closely tied to World Liberty Financial. And they just raised, get this, $1.5 billion. Basically to expand their stablecoin, USD1. The crypto designed to stay stable, usually pegged to the dollar. This happened just yesterday, August 13th. It's a pretty big deal.
And looking at the poster, there seems to be a personal connection, too, which maybe speaks to a larger strategy.
That's right. Eric Trump himself has taken on a role as a director at ALT5. Zach Witkoff is chairman. It definitely reflects a strategic alliance with World Liberty Financial. And that huge funding for their WLFI token, it suggests a really bold, aggressive push, integrating traditional finance and crypto. It really challenges the slower adoption we've seen from mainstream banks. And, there's some backing for this approach. A 2023 study from the National Bureau of Economic Research actually supports the idea that stablecoins can reduce volatility in crypto markets. And it's a big one. That same study warns about regulatory risks. Those could definitely impact the long-term viability of ventures like this.
Right. So a major financial play, pushing boundaries, but with those regulatory question marks still hanging there. Innovation outpacing regulation, maybe.
Seems that way sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Leaving high finance, let's turn to something maybe a bit more relatable and awkward. This post is from @Skookum. Just dropped, not my monkey, not my circus, on my ESL coworker, and she went absolutely bananas. Went off like a nuke. Went absolutely bananas. Went off like a nuke. Wow. Sounds like a pretty dramatic reaction to a common phrase. What happened there?
Yeah, that sounds intense.
Yeah.
This is a classic, really, of cross-cultural communication wires getting crossed. The phrase, not my monkey, not my circus, it's actually Polish originally. Norge, Cirque, ni moi mapi. It just means, it's not my problem. I'm not getting involved. It came into English likely during a translation boom in the 90s. Lots of Eastern European expressions entered Western media then.
Polish.
Exactly. So the coworker's extreme reaction, probably a linguistic mismatch. There was a 2019 study, Journal of Pragmatics, found non-native speakers often misinterpret idioms. Because they like the cultural context, the metaphor doesn't land. And that can amplify emotional responses, confusion, maybe even offense.
That makes total sense. It's like walking through a minefield sometimes, especially in diverse workplaces.
Really is. And it connects to a bigger trend, right? Global migration. The UN reported over 281 million international migrants back in 2020. Workplaces are just much more diverse now, so these kinds of idiom misunderstandings way more common, especially in English-speaking places with varied backgrounds. It's just a powerful reminder. Language and culture are deeply tangled.
Good point. Cultural context is everything. A seemingly harmless phrase can really, really land wrong. Okay, shifting gears. Politics now. A post from @EricEldo. Breaking! It has just been revealed that President Donald Trump has a considerably higher approval rating at this point in his second term than Barack Hussein Obama and George W. Bush. The attacks have failed. https://t.qlh70hdknd. That's a pretty bold claim about presidential approval. What's the context here? And how should we, interpret these numbers?
Right, so the post claims Trump's second-term approval, cited at 45.9% as of August 2025, is higher than Obama's, 43.8%, and Bush's, 43.3% at similar points. It draws on Real Clear Politics data for that comparison. What's interesting here is that this specific claim, well, it contrasts with other sources. Like a recent Silver Bulletin poll showed Trump's net approval, that's approval minus disapproval, at 8.6%. So it kind of suggests there might be some selection bias in the data being presented in the tweet. Depends which poll you look at.
Okay, so not quite a slam dunk then. How do these figures generally fit into historical trends? What do approval ratings even tell us, really?
Well, historically, presidents often see higher peaks earlier on. Obama hit 69% in 2009, according to Gallup. Bush hit 90% after 9/11. What this really suggests is that second-term declines, they're actually pretty common. It's hard to maintain those early highs. There was a 2021 study, American Political Science Review. It noted approval ratings often mirror economic conditions. That could be playing a role in Trump's current standing, given the reported economic challenges in 2025. But it's also really important to clarify, there's no peer-reviewed evidence that directly links approval ratings to policy success. So saying the attacks have failed based purely on this comparison, that's more of an assertion than a proven fact.
Gotcha. A nuanced look. Numbers tell part of the story, but not the whole thing, and they don't always predict policy outcomes. All right, back to finance, but crypto specifically. Michael Saylor at Saylor posted this. Today, Strategy's Bitcoin holdings closed at an all-time high of $77.2 billion. https://t.t.10 SEIOIFKY, 77.2 billion. That's quite a number. What's the significance here for Bitcoin and corporate strategy?
It's a huge statement, isn't it? Michael Saylor highlighting Strategy's Bitcoin reaching $77.2 billion as of yesterday, August 13th. And this isn't just a small increase. It's up something like 1,700% from their $2.1 billion back in 2020. How?
Very aggressive.
Funded often through equity and debt. It reflects a very deliberate strategic shift for Strategy, treating Bitcoin as a primary treasury reserve asset, especially with all the global economic uncertainty.
So, yeah, very intentional, a long-term play, not just speculation. How does this fit into the broader Bitcoin market? What's its signal about its future role?
Well, it coincides with Bitcoin's price pushing past $123,000. And remember that NBER study from 2024? It actually showed that this kind of institutional adoption, like corporate treasuries buying in, correlates with about a 15% annualized price increase. So it challenges that narrative of Bitcoin being purely speculative. It suggests a move towards a more legitimate institutional-grade asset.
And the numbers back it up. The leap from $41.8 billion in 2024 to $77.2 billion now. It lines up perfectly with Strategy's big buying spree after the Trump election. They've added over 376,000 Bitcoin since November 2024. They're clearly leveraging the current crypto-friendly U.S. policies. And some analysts, like at Coinmetrics, see this signaling a potential $1 trillion market cap for Bitcoin by 2030.
Wow. A clear sign Bitcoin's carving out a serious strategic role. It's definitely not just a fringe asset for some big players anymore. Okay, moving on. Political drama from Texas. At Brianna Morello posted this. Not a single Texas Democrat lost their seat or was arrested after fleeing the state to avoid doing their job. Given the context, that sounds like a surprising lack of enforcement. What's the full story here?
Yeah, the context is key. The Post highlights that despite Texas Governor Abbott threatening arrests or removal for Democrats who fled the state, they did that to block a redistricting vote.
Yeah.
Well, none of those threats materialized. No action followed. And it really boils down to legal and jurisdictional limits.
Okay.
Just yesterday, an Illinois judge ruled Texas warrants simply can't be enforced out of state. No jurisdiction.
Ah, okay. A jurisdictional wall. So what was the political goal for the Democrats? And is this kind of walkout tactic common?
Well, the backdrop is this rare mid-decade redistricting push. It was backed by President Trump, aiming to get 5 more Republican seats in Texas. The Democrats opposed it by breaking quorum, basically, leaving so there weren't enough members present to vote. It's a tactic rooted in Texas's specific two-thirds quorum rule in the Constitution. And it's not unprecedented. There were similar walkouts in 2003 and 2021, often leads to these standoffs. And legally, experts, even a 2021 Texas Supreme Court ruling, generally support quorum breaking as constitutional. Governor Abbott tried to remove one representative, Gene Wu, using something called a writ of quo warranto, basically challenging his right to hold office. That failed. It really underscores that trying to remove someone midterm under these circumstances, it's pretty much untested legal ground. No real studies validate it.
So a high-stakes political chess game, ultimately boxed in by legal rules and state lines, shows the power of procedure. Next up, another economic tweet. At Watcher Guru, Justin Trump says interest rates should be at 1%. Very direct statement. What are your thoughts on this call for such a low rate, especially compared to where things are now?
It's a very stark contrast, isn't it? Trump calling for 1% interest rates, when the Federal Reserve's current rate is hovering around 5.25, 5.5% as of July. The Fed's keeping rates higher specifically to fight inflation. The latest BLS data showed CPI up 3.2% in July, still persistent pressure. So yeah, Trump's view is dramatically different from current policy.
And this isn't new for him, right? Weighing in on the Fed. But if rates did go to 1%, what would be the immediate market reaction, you think? Good or bad?
Not new at all, no. He has a long history of critiquing Fed policy, famously clashed with Chair Jerome Powell back in 2018 over rate hikes. And Newsweek just reported he demanded cuts again on Truth Social right after the latest inflation data came out. Economically speaking, well, an IMF study from 2021 suggests low rates can boost growth, sure, but they also risk inflating asset bubbles. So Trump's 1% proposal, if implemented, it could definitely spur borrowing and investment, but it could also really accelerate market volatility, risk economic overheating, especially if inflation isn't under control. Big gamble.
Right. A clear philosophical difference on display with potentially huge market impacts. Okay, shifting to global affairs. This post from @InevitableWest makes some pretty strong claims. Breaking. U.S. investigation finds there was no Russian interference in the first round of the Romanian election in which Jairusco won the EU lie to maintain power. https://7khw0xjm. That sounds like a major reversal. What's the background here? How does this challenge what we heard before?
It is a provocative claim, yeah. That a U.S. investigation found no Russian interference in Romania's first-round election, won by this figure, Georgescu, and it directly contradicts earlier reports from both Romania and the EU. Those initial reports linked a suspicious TikTok campaign supporting Georgescu to Russian backing. In fact, those very findings led to the election results being annulled back in November 2024.
So a potential U.S. finding undermining the Euromanian narrative. What was the deal with that original election scrutiny, and what happens if this U.S. finding holds up?
Well, the 2024 election got a lot of attention because Georgescu's social media presence just exploded, seemingly out of nowhere. The BBC reported back in March 2025 that intelligence suggested Russian involvement. Though looking at Wikipedia's summary from June 2025, there was apparently no direct, hard evidence tying Georgescu's campaign itself to Moscow. It was murky. Now put this in context. A 2023 study from the European Council on Foreign Relations highlighted how vulnerable Eastern Europe is to disinformation. Found something like 68% of Romanians encountered foreign influence content online. So if this U.S. finding is validated, it could really shift the focus, maybe towards domestic political actors instead, like the National Liberal Party. Some Romanian reporting from Snoop.ro hinted at that possibility.
A really complex web of conflicting reports and intelligence makes it hard to know what to believe in these global information wars. Okay, switching gears again. Tech and AI, which is always moving fast. Elon Musk posted, "You should notice small improvements to Grok Imagine every day. Giant improvement with release of Imagine v2 in a few months. https://t.kasseesoifky." Okay, ongoing improvements to Grok Imagine. Tell us more. What is this, and what does it mean for AI and for xAI's mission?
Right. So Elon Musk giving a direct update on Grok Imagine, that's xAI's image generation tool. He's saying basically users should see small tweaks, daily enhancements, but also teasing a major upgrade, Imagine v2 coming in a few months. It really underscores xAI's commitment to pushing their AI capabilities forward and doing it quickly.
So incremental progress plus a big leap coming. Can you give an example of what Grok Imagine can do, and how does it fit into xAI's bigger goals?
Yeah, the post he linked actually shows an example output, a really detailed kind of fantastical image of a winged figure. It showcases the tool's ability to create pretty high-quality, complex visuals. And that capability is part of XAI's wider strategy, using AI to better understand the universe. So connecting the dots, this development is part of that larger mission. Musk talks about accelerating human scientific discovery. Better image generation could really help with visual data analysis, creative stuff, directly feeding into their goal of contributing to scientific knowledge.
Daily progress, giant leaps. Sounds like AI is speeding up discovery in tangible ways. Exciting stuff to watch. Back to global affairs one more time. This post from @DisglossTV has pretty big implications. Just in, Trump tells Zelensky and European leaders that conceding Ukrainian territory will be necessary axios. Okay. What are the diplomatic, the geopolitical implications of this stance? Especially given President Zelensky's very firm position against it.
Yeah, this reflects President Trump's recent diplomatic posture, suggesting Ukraine might need to concede territory to Russia to achieve peace. It's reportedly linked to a planned summit with Putin, maybe even tomorrow, August 15th, according to the BBC. And yes, this directly clashes with President Zelensky's very public, very firm rejection of any territorial concessions. He just restated that on August 10th.
And does this track with Trump's past approach? Does it suggest a consistent strategy, maybe?
It does seem to align, yeah. Axios reported back in May on a call Trump had with European leaders where his perceived deference to Putin apparently surprised some allies. It hints at a consistent strategy, focusing on bilateral deals, maybe direct negotiations with Russia, rather than broad multilateral support for Ukraine. Now, there aren't specific peer-reviewed studies on this exact scenario, obviously, but geopolitical analysis, like from The Economist just yesterday, suggests Russia's continued escalation might force some kind of pragmatic territorial trade-offs eventually, though they always add the caveat. Long-term stability is really doubtful without genuine Ukrainian consent.
Right. A really complex, delicate situation. Potential for major shifts in global dynamics there. Okay, finally, let's look at policing in the U.S. Capitol at Right Angle News posted. Breaking last night, D.C. residents not used to being held accountable were shocked as they were arrested by D.C. Metro Police for interfering in an arrest. https://8LB4QZID2. What are the details here? And what's the broader context for policing in D.C. right now?
So the video linked in the post, it shows a nighttime incident in D.C. You see D.C. Metro Police arresting some individuals. The context given is that these people were interfering with another arrest already in progress. It seems to reflect maybe a move towards stricter enforcement regarding interference with police actions in the area. And this isn't happening in isolation. It's against a backdrop of recent policy changes in D.C. policing, like the new juvenile curfew zone down in the Navy Yard area. And there are ongoing debates about police accountability overall.
Right. And what are some of those bigger issues facing the D.C. police, that complex relationship between law enforcement and the community there?
Well, you have groups like the ACLU of D.C. raising concerns about police abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And the D.C. Council recently passed a pretty comprehensive police accountability bill. So connecting this incident to the bigger picture, it's part of a really complex landscape. The MPD is dealing with public safety concerns, officer retention issues, community relations, all at once. Plus, reports as of yesterday show the city spent something like $91 million settling police misconduct cases over the last decade.
That underscores the ongoing challenges.
Yeah. A snapshot of the dynamic, often tense relationship between police and community in D.C. And that wraps up today's Daily Vibecasting. We've really zipped through quite a range: the economic surprises, crypto leaps, political dramas, global shifts. It just shows how fast crucial information surfaces and how interconnected it often is.
Indeed. Even in this quick format, if you connect the dots, look at the context behind the posts, you get a much deeper understanding than just, scrolling your feed. These seemingly separate topics, they often reflect bigger linked trends reshaping our world. So as you navigate your own feeds today, maybe think about not just what is trending, but why it's trending. What underlying shifts might it signal for the bigger picture? The Daily Vibe isn't just noise, it's really a living snapshot of our world's unfolding story. Join us for the next deep dive.